everyone, Panzer Penguin here with my second of my updated videos for the 1939 to 1945 Global War game. The first one was just a real brief intro to what the game is, so this one will go into a little more depth as far as the rules and what everything on the board is, and then the videos after this one will be country specific, focus on each of the countries, some of the special rules that apply to them, uh, and some basic strategies for each country from my perspective. They're not necessarily the correct strategies or the most common ones, but there is some variety. So uh, be sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel. Leave me comments and questions so I know people are watching these and enjoying them, and so I can also make videos to answer questions. So, for a refresher, this is the board. Everything's pre-set up based on the setup charts. I've got a few different items on the board to make things easier for everyone. So if there's, these colored dice here, so you can, everybody picks a color. So in this case, I'm blue. I'd roll the blue one, and you just roll them. In this case, I got a 6, so I'd most likely go first, and then roll in the country. I'm Germany. So then, if I bring up the HUD, this button here, now I can just change color to Germany, which in this case would be white, and now I'm the German player. So real simple. This chart on the bottom right is the tech chart. The way technology works is, so I'm Germany. I'm going to buy, on my first turn, let's say I'm buying 2 research die, 1 for that and 1 for that. In this case, I rolled the 1 for advanced artillery tactics, and I got, was it 7? Then I hit the key again, makes it face the right way, and then I do the same for rockets. I got it. I think that was an 8. So that's how technology works. They cost 3 IC each. So I just spent 6 on technology. You always roll them first, because let's say it's turn 2 for Germany, and I'm rolling again, and I get an 8 over here, or even an 11. Well, that puts me above 14. So then in this case, I would have advanced artillery tactics. You can get rid of the die, and you put your little occupation ship. You may have to shrink it down. That way everybody knows I have advanced artillery tactics, and over here in the notepad, I would add Germany advanced art tac. Gives me a pretty good benefit. Artillery tactics allow you to, instead of supporting a 1-to-1 ratio, so 1 artillery plus 1 infantry or mech, you get 1 artillery plus 2 infantry or 2 mech or 1 of each. So it adds an additional unit to get the bonus on the attack. I'll go over that as well. Beside the technology chart, this beautiful color chart with all the units laid out neatly is where you go to get your new units. They're all infinite bundles, so you just click and drag, and you keep pulling. Everything is set up that way. Pretty self-explanatory. You've got the names here on the left-hand side for everything. The only things you have to actually copy and paste are fortifications, though from my experience, the only person who's ever bought one was the Russian player. And then down here on the bottom of the chart, we have all the special units with their own sort of little color scheme. To the left of that chart, we have the official attack and defense value chart for every unit, also color-coded to make it easier to find each country. There is variation, as I've stated in previous videos, so be sure to pay attention when you're trying to figure out the attack and defense values. Same with the cost. Each country can have different things. You may have noticed all this text on the side. Probably not the best way to have done this, but the easiest way I could find. But it just kind of gives a little additional information on when you can do things, how many you can buy, things like that, especially when it comes to the special units. And also up here in the sort of middle free floating area, some little just additional information on what each country can do and when. So some values do change with time. Of course, in the middle, we have our battle tower, attacker on the left, defender on the right, color coded die for them. Along with the attack chart, we find that it's in large battles, it's much easier to move everything down here, assign them to their right values, and roll from there. With the 1, 3, and 5 unit ships below it, along with the damage for the damaged capital ships, since most likely you'll have your ships down here, and when they take damage, you can just slide the damaged ship under them. Up top, we have the country turn order, which you may notice as well is also here on the little side note, make it a little easier to see. So this matches up with what we have on the right-hand side. It also says that Japan can go at the same time as Germany, as long as they're both, if they're not both at war with Russia. That helps speed things up. Usually the UK player keeps an eye on what Germany's doing, since it usually involves them, while the American player or the Russian player can also keep an eye on Japan, make sure all their moves are going correctly. And same with the United Kingdom and Russia. So pretty simple. Then we have the actual process for each turn. What happens along with the technology. Here you see it costs 3 per die, 1 die per tech per turn, 1 tech per turn when not at war. So for countries like the United States and Russia, they can only purchase 1 technology each turn until they've met their war goals and are at war. Followed by what each technology does. So as you can see here, like I was saying, advanced artillery tactics, it boosts 2 infantry on a +1 attack, not just the 1. You can go over that. Then you would do your purchase new units and repair facilities and capital ships. Then you would conduct combat movement. And like I said in my last video, you do all combat at the same time. So you make all your attacking moves at the same time. You verbally declare them, so everybody's aware that you're attacking, and then you also move them. Since there's not a whole lot of space, especially in parts of Europe, we often move battles into a C zone just so we know that, okay, these ones are over here, those ones are over there, these are the units involved, as often the Atlantic is not all that occupied. Real simple. So once you've made all your moves, that's when you carry out the combat, which means that's when you bring them down to the battle board one by one, roll the die, and discover the outcomes of your attacks. After that, any unit that was not involved in combat gets to move in the non-combat phase. NCM is the common referral for that, the acronym. And then after that, you place your purchase units that you purchase at the beginning of your turn on the board at their corresponding facilities that can produce them, and then you collect your income. One thing to note is that the income tracker is down here. So as you see, Germany has $52 in the bank, but clearly they don't collect 52. They're only collecting 24. So your starting income does not reflect what you collect at the end of your turn. Of course, this all changes when you lose and gain territories, and then it does not include the national objectives, which we see here. So, for instance, when Germany is not at war with the Soviet Union, they collect 5 money per turn in addition to their income tracked down here. You do not track that income on this because that alternates or changes up much more frequently. So it's not an income tracker. You track down here. What else am I missing? Basic movement rules. So everything on the ocean moves 2 zones. All aircraft move 4, except for the strategic bombers that move 6. Infantry and artillery can only move 1 zone, while mechanized and tanks can move 2. A artillery paired with a mechanized also gets to go 2 zones. So, it hitches a ride, essentially. If an aircraft starts at an airbase, these printed on the map or little icons like this one here. Um, they get to move one additional space, so our fighters and tactical bombers would move 5, and a strategic bomber would move 7, while naval ships starting at a friendly port get an additional movement as well, so they would go 3 spaces instead of the standard 2. Um, One thing to keep in mind with aircraft is that they always have to land in a friendly zone or on a friendly aircraft carrier um, at the end of their turn. So during the the combat phase, this fighter is attacking Paris, 1, 2, so it has 2 movement left, uh, and you move it during the non-combat phase because once combat's over, the aircraft return to base. You may have conquered uh, Rance here in this case, but you're not allowed to land there since you didn't own it at the beginning of your turn. So you have to go uh, back to West Germany or Bavaria. And since you have that 5th movement, you could even reach Berlin. But it has to be an area that you already occupy. Um, the way it works with the Navy is 1, 2, 3. So let's say this fighter went out here 1, 2, 3, took part in battle here. 4 and 5. This is the closest it can get to a friendly zone. Well, why is it allowed to do that? If Germany had decided to buy an aircraft carrier, um, you would be able to deploy your aircraft carrier here at the end of your turn, which allows the fighter to land on the aircraft carrier as a legitimate move. Um, if we look into the Pacific real quickly, I think I already showed this sort of thing, but islands. So to move from an island, let's say we're here, to move from an island into the sea zone, that costs 1 move. So from a land, crossing the border costs 1 move. So on an island, leaving the land, which is essentially crossing a border, is considered the same. So that would be 1 move. So when you're flying back somewhere, 1 move into there, 2nd move to land on the island. Um, if you had a carrier, say out here in 116, taking part in a combat, and it had 2 aircraft on it, you could not launch this aircraft, which would go 1, 2, 3. So it could reach and take part in combat out here. But 4 and 5, yes, it gets into the sea zone, but it does not reach the island, so it cannot land safely. And yes, there is a carrier there, but the carrier already has 2 aircraft that are landing on it. So you can't consider that, oh, I'll take 1 aircraft as lost during combat, so that one can land. Now, at the beginning of the turn, if you have an aircraft in a location, you can only have 2 aircraft per aircraft carrier land on it, so you cannot send 3 aircraft. That's real simple how uh, aircraft work. Transport ships, um, they can load from multiple areas. So, for instance, we could load this infantry onto this transport here. The transport from could then go down here and pick up another one from Shanghai, and then it could move down here. Now that it's fully loaded, it could then deploy 1 infantry to Hong Kong and 1 infantry to Guangxi. Uh, Once your transport ship disembarks troops, it can no longer move. So while the movement ends here because we're disembarking, you can disembark to any zone attached to the to where the transport ship is. I like to then put the transport ship half on land, half in the water, so I know that it's just been moved and it has just launched a naval invasion over locations. Let's say these guys are coming over here. Then I also like to move whatever ships are taking part in the shore bombardment onto the edge of the landmass as well. That way I know, okay, this transport's been doing this, and these 2 cruisers are partaking in the shore bombardment, while these ships down here have not been moved, or they have been moved, but they're not taking part. It just makes it much easier to keep track of everything. Put these guys back. What else? So yeah, transports can carry 2 infantry, or one of anything, or 1 infantry plus one of anything else. Um, so you can never have 2 tanks on a transport. You would have to have an infantry and a tank, an infantry and artillery, an infantry and a mech, or 2 infantry, or 1 tank, 1 mech, 1 artillery. Yeah, uh, that's the limitations on transports. Strategic bombers. If we look at Germany, we see that Germany has an airborne troop to start off with. So a strategic bomber can transport an airborne troop. And let's say we're going to do an attack on Norway as Germany, so we can land our airborne troop. So we have 2 strategic bombers here. However, one is assigned to carrying the airborne troop, so the second bomber is the only one that gets to launch an attack on the defending infantry. If you uh, or once your airborne unit lands, he gets a bonus on the first round of attack, after which he then acts as a regular unit. The only way an airborne troop can board on a bomber is at an airfield. So in this case, he'd be pretty much stuck in Oslo until you send a transport ship uh, to liberate him or to transport him back somewhere else. Uh, Submarines get sneak attacks if there are no destroyers present. So let's say this British fleet here moved down to attack these German submarines. As you can see, there's only one destroyer present, so he negates this submarine sneak attack, while these 2 German submarines and then this British one will get to launch sneak attacks. On a sneak attack, if it scores a hit, on the attack it hits on a 4, on the defense it hits on a 2, then the ships that are assigned the damage are sunk immediately and removed from play. They do not get to fire back. That's the point of the sneak attack, that you sink the ship before it's able to shoot back at you. Transport ships that are involved in naval combat. So in this case, the Germans are attacking. In this case, again, we get the one destroyer pairing off with one submarine, so it negates that submarine's attack. But this submarine can then fire. If this submarine here sinks this destroyer on its sneak attack, or if this one does on its regular attack, and the destroyer only sinks one submarine, so we'll say these 2 get eliminated, uh, that's the end of combat. Transport ships have no defense value, so in this case they are considered to be automatically sunk. Um, had there been no destroyer there, all the German player would have had to have done is move any sort of ship or submarine into the sea zone, and both of those transports are sunk. The German submarines, and I'll go into this. Well, I'm going to save it for the German strategy guide. But essentially, they get, if there's 2 or more of them involved in combat, they get a +1 to their attack. It's called the German Wolf Pack. Uh, Submarines can also travel through hostile straits like Gibraltar without being attacked, while surface ships are blocked, but they cannot do so in canals. I believe I did go over that already as well. I also went over the neutrals, where Germany just has to move into these to activate them. And of course, I'll go over them in the German strategy guide. When a capital is conquered, for the most part, you gain whatever money that country has in the bank. So when Paris falls, Germany, or whoever is the one taking it over, would gain its 10 money in the bank. Germany and Italy followed the same suit, so does Japan, and I believe the United States and Anzac. However, Russia and the United Kingdom are a bit different. When Moscow falls, Russia keeps its money and gets to move its capital. It can move it to Karelia up here in the north, or to Novosibirsk. I don't think I pronounced that right, but I don't know my Russian. That's out here in the east. So it has that option. If London falls for the British, they can move their capital, I think, to Quebec, somewhere in Canada, or somewhere in South Africa. And I think they have a few other options as well. Let's see. Far East Command, Russia, the Commonwealth. So they can move their capital to Ottawa or South Africa, but they lose their money. It just doesn't go to the conquering party. That's what it is. Um, which is a bit of a bummer, but I guess if you're the Axis and you've done that, you're probably doing pretty well. Oh, we do have a turn tracker down here as well. It's something I created over the Global War logo, which I imported as well. Um, actually, originally for the 1936 version, and I, using my mad photoshopping skills, was able to switch out the 9 and make this little turn tracker. So this little V2 rocket is how we keep track of what turn we're on. If you end in the middle of the turn, it would probably be a smart idea to put the, let's say we ended at the end of Japan's turn on turn 2. It might be smart, or at the end of Germany's turn, it might be smart to then put the Japanese marker down. So when you come back to the game, you know whose turn it is and what turn you're on. And the reason the turns matter is because they dictate when you can build certain units, and also they determine when you can win the game. So this sort of gold-colored turn 10 is the earliest the Axis can win. If they control their 12 victory cities on turn 10 for a full turn, then they win the game. While turn 15 is when the game ends, period, no matter what the victory conditions are or not. So just something to keep an eye on. Something I have not gone over in either of my in this video or the other one are the convoy zones. That's what these little rectangle boxes are. They have a value and a country uh, icon on it as well. In this case, if we're looking at this one in the middle of the Atlantic, if a German submarine is here, then it prevents the British from gaining 3 UK Europe 3 income from that zone. Any sort of ship other than uh, a transport has that effect on a convoy zone. Should be pretty straightforward. And they exist all over the place, even in the Mediterranean. So as a player, it's always good to defend them, as your opponent can do some pretty serious damage. Like if the Japanese get into these American ones, you can see the American ones are worth a lot more. They're worth 5 each, which is a pretty big sum of money when you look at it. There are certain places where a naval base, for instance, is actually on 2 zones. So the income tracker kind of blocks it, but C zone 63 and 77 are connected, and this naval base here is on both of them. So whoever controls South Africa gets the bonus on either side. Thought there was somewhere else that had it, but maybe not. I think Hong Kong. Yeah, and Hong Kong's a little easier to see. It's on both C zones, so should be pretty easy to figure that out. The rule book has descriptions on all the fortifications that exist at the start of the game and what they defend against. So like this one in the Philippines, I believe defends against all C zone attacks. So any C zone invasion of the Philippines meets up against this fortification. Well, I think I mentioned before that the Maginot Line here only defends against a German invasion. If Germany has conquered Holland and attacks from Holland and West Germany, you ignore the fortification unless you're playing with the optional rule set. But you can find that in the actual rule book. Gray factories produce 10 units. White ones produce 3. Um, includes all units produced here. So in Stettin, if you're building ships and infantry, you can only build uh, 3 total units between them, aircraft included. Uh, Impassable terrain. Well, as you see, the privet marshes are semi-impassable. This means that aircraft can fly over them, but ground units cannot pass through it. While the Saharan Desert, on the other hand, is completely impassable. Nothing can fly over it, and no one can walk through it. I don't believe there's anywhere other than the Himalayas. Same deal. You cannot fly over them, and you cannot walk through them. Next to the Himalayas, we do have the Burmese Road. That doesn't provide any other benefit other than allowing the nationalist Chinese to build artillery and infantry instead of just infantry. As soon as the Japanese cut the road, then the nationalists can't produce any more artillery. They can only do infantry. Um, so I don't think I'm missing anything too obvious. Of course, we have the occupation ships for when territory changes hand, sort of adjusted to whatever side of the map they take part on. So I don't think I've missed anything too important that I haven't already covered in a previous video. So that should give you a pretty good basic introduction to the game as far as how the gameplay takes part. Um, so I think the next video I'll be making will be, and I'm going to go off of the turn order here. I'm going to start with the Germans, then I'll do the Japanese, the Russians, the Commonwealth, the United States, and then Italy. Um, so I'll make individual videos for all of those, and I'll go over their specific rules, um, and also basically some of the first turn tactics and production orders that I have seen or I have used um, from my experience of playing this game. Uh, so once again, please subscribe to this channel, like my videos, and leave comments. That way I can improve them. Give me feedback. I would much appreciate it. Check out the mod on the tabletop workshop. I'll link it in the description. Feel free to join my Steam group as well if you're interested in playing. Good way to start communicating, talking. Try and get some of these games up and going. And hope to see you soon. Panzer Penguin out.